Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Well, we have two ballot proposals on, as I said, that have to do with wolf hunting. The long and short of this is that if you do not want wolves to be hunted in the state of Michigan, you vote no. If you're okay with the idea, you vote yes. But I wanted to have you on here to talk about this a little bit because of the way the legislature has used the system to its advantage. Basically, if you are successful and these ballot proposals fail, it essentially just cancels out a wolf hunting season for this year, but the state could still call one in years following. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the politics and the legality of it all is indeed complicated. It's just the way you say. And my understanding is just the same as yours about what the government of Michigan could do. Questions would be if the government of Michigan decided to have a hunt in a subsequent year, they would have to provide reasons for why they would want to do that. And there may be some reason to believe that the reasons they've offered in the past are not quite adequate. And then there's, it's easy to imagine some of these things could end up in litigation.
Now, with that in mind, then, I see that the group Keep Michigan Wolves Protected has actually come out with some videos, some ads trying to encourage people to vote no on these ballot proposals. Why go through the effort, though, if really you're only canceling the season for 1 year?
Well, I think there's two reasons to go through it. One is that we live in a democracy, and how it is that we vote says something about the kind of people that we are. And there may be a concern in this case where what it is that the people think is quite at odds with what the government has been doing, and it's just extraordinarily important for a functioning democracy for those kinds of disparities to be made clear. And so we'll find out on Election Day if most citizens are in agreement with what the government has done or not. The other thing that I think is important from a technical perspective is that if there is litigation subsequently, the outcome of this vote, I would imagine, would be an important part of evidence that a judge would take into consideration.
So best case scenario here for you is that both of these, Proposal 1 and 2, fail. Then what happens after the new law that would basically allow the state to have a wolf hunting season goes into effect?
Well, yeah, what happens remains to be seen, but what one might expect is that the Natural Resource Commission, this is a panel that is appointed by the governor and is responsible for making regulations with respect to harvesting. The presumption is that they would have to pass judgment on whether wolves should be hunted or not, and if so, how they would be hunted in terms of how many and all that kind of thing. And so they would have to go through that process, and one would presume that they would say that wolves should be hunted.
So for the folks up in the Upper Peninsula, this is obviously a very important issue. They have to deal with this. We have no wolves in the Lower Peninsula, and that's where most of the citizens of Michigan live. Why should we care? Why should us trolls care about wolves up in the Upper Peninsula?
Well, it's a great question, and I think the most important answer to it is that every citizen has a stake in how wildlife and nature is managed in our state, not just the citizens that live where the wildlife populations might be. And what's an important perspective from folks who live in the Lower Peninsula is this is an opportunity for us to say what kind of society we want to live in. Do we want to live in a society where we kill animals for what seems to be not very good reasons, and that we're just okay with that, or do we reject that idea? So this vote is very much about what kind of society we want to live in and how it is that we relate to nature. Every citizen, including folks in the Lower Peninsula, have an important stake in that.
We're talking with Dr. John Vucetich. He's the co-director of the Isle Royal Wolf Moose Project. We only got a couple minutes left here, but in your video, you mentioned that wolves are not dangerous to humans. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's really quite that simple. Wolves just aren't a danger to humans. There hasn't been a person in the state of Michigan to be injured by wolves, certainly not killed by wolves. And if you want some comparison for a type of creature that really is dangerous, that would be white-tailed deer.
White-tailed deer?
Yes. In the year 2012, 8 people in Michigan died from hitting deer with their car. 1,300 people were injured, more than 100 deer collisions per day in Michigan. And so this is a dangerous creature. And so,
but we get to hunt those guys.
Yes, indeed. But here's the thing: is that we don't get all so terribly excited about it, and I think in the United States we have a problem with fear. We're afraid of things for which there's really not such good reason to be afraid of. And if we were really concerned about those 8 deaths that can occur in a year, 1,300 injuries in a year, if we were really concerned about that, we would be hunting deer in a way that would actually reduce their abundance so that these injuries were less common and deaths. Or we would slow our speed limits down so that we didn't have so many collisions. But how we relate to deer indicates that the fear that we have for wolves is absolutely overblown.
We've only got 20 seconds here, but in the UP, what do you think? Is this going to pass or not?
I would guess that people will vote no on both proposals. We had a vote similar to this with mourning doves a few years ago. Every county in the state of Michigan, including those in the Upper Peninsula, voted against the idea of hunting mourning doves, and the reason was the same.